Thanks for tuning into the Replatform podcast, sponsored by Crown Peak and Elastic Path and hosted by me, James Gurd. Warm welcome if it's your first time. We put a lot of time and effort into bringing you really interesting guests, amazing content, all for free. Help us keep it that way. Spread the word, tell other people about the podcast so they start listening, so we get our plays up. Share the posts that we put out on LinkedIn, on Twitter. That'd be really helpful. And the best thing you can do, if you haven't already, is rate our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever else you are listening and watching. So thanks. And let me introduce the new episode, and then introduce you to our guest. So the topic is provocatively titled "Stop Screwing Your Margins: How to Improve Sales and Margin with AI Negotiation." So a really interesting topic. We're going to look at what AI negotiation is in the context of e-commerce, how you can actually help improve margin by doing smart negotiation, the business controls you can apply to the AI to make sure it's on brand, and then also some examples we've woven in of how people are using this actively now. So a warm welcome to Rosie Bailey, who's the CEO and founder of Nibble.
Thank you so much, James. I'm thrilled to be here. The way you've done the intro, I'm now thinking, I wonder if I've learned all my lines, right? But there's quite a lot to get through, isn't there?
There is, but having listened to you present at I can't remember the name, it's IRX in Birmingham, I know full well that you're doing an exceptionally good job of doing it. It was a very, very interesting
Fingers
talk. So
crossed.
I'm really glad that you've made the time to come on, so thank you. So before let's do a couple of foundational questions about the journey and what brought you to Nibble. But before we get into that, for people who haven't come across the term AI negotiation, because AI is everywhere at the moment, but AI negotiation is a very specific set of tooling. Can you just explain to people what AI negotiation is and why it's relevant in e-commerce?
Sure. So what we've produced is a chatbot, and it can sit on your website and it can pop up and agree a deal with one of your customers. And so the way this is different from a customer service chatbot is very specific. It takes about a minute, and the chatbot leads with something like, I can see you're interested in this item. If the price is worrying you, shall we talk? Or is there some sort of deal that would do for you? Or if you bundle a couple more items, we might be able to do a special personalized price for you. And so it's all about having a deal, like you might if you were in a Turkish bazaar and trying to agree on something as you haggle. But the critical thing is it allows you to have a much greater degree of control than markdowns or voucher codes.
Cool, really nice position. And your path into this is quite an interesting one because you're not you haven't always worked in e-commerce. You actually have a background in like bank and investment banking, and like deals and acquisitions, from what I've understood. And then you found your way into the e-commerce space. So I'd love for you to share a bit more about where the idea for Nibble came from. What's it founded on? What brought you to this point?
Sure. Okay, well, it was a very well-timed midlife crisis, I think. So I spent my first career was in investment banking, and I advised clients. And I have to be honest, I love advising. I love meeting clients who have difficult decisions and sitting with them and coaching them through it. Not necessarily knowing the answer myself, but sitting with them and trying to find the right answer. And these would be difficult decisions, particularly around fundraising. Maybe they might want to IPO, buy another business, sell a division, big pivotal moments in corporate companies. And I did that with Jimmy Choo, Tesco, Unilever. I did some in hospitality as well, Costa Coffee, Premier Inn, that kind of thing. And so I made amazing relationships, but I also negotiated deals. And so the concept of negotiation was very, very strong. There was a lot of give and take. So that's what I did for 20 years. Then I finally saw the light and didn't want to be a finance person anymore. And I went back to school and I met my current business partner, Jamie. And Jamie was really the creative behind the idea of Nibble. And it's because he's a sneakerhead. He loves trainers. And he was haggling over a pair of trainers in an Istanbul market because his wife is Turkish and he spends a lot of time out there. And he walked away with a big smile on his face. He'd enjoyed the experience. The seller had enjoyed the experience. They'd had a bit of fun. The price worked for him and the price worked for them. And he was like, why can't e-commerce have this level of fun, connection, engagement, but this positivity around finding a win-win outcome? And that's really, so AI negotiation makes us sound very dry, But if you try our demo and you play with it, you can see that it's trying to bring that sense of engagement and fun together, but without being intimidating or aggressive. There's no FBI negotiators here. It's all about trying to find that win-win.
Excellent. And yeah, we'll come on to some of that like brand control piece later, which I think is really interesting. And actually, it's interesting you said about this, about making it fun, because I had a conversation with another AI based vendor the other day around like product merchandising and recommendations. And his point was too much AI is just about putting products in front of people. And he wants his
Yeah.
AI to think like an in-store assistant. So it's engaging with people. And I really like that thinking because it's got to be, it can't be human because it's an engine, but it can display humanistic characteristics by being more engaging. So I think the listeners will enjoy it when we get into those questions. But before we do, let's get the elephant out of the room, because negotiation, people are worried obviously about giving away margin for no reason. There's lots of trading pressures on at the moment. So this might bring up some people visions of slashing prices and a race to the bottom. So can you explain to people what is the goal of Nibble and how is it actually designed to not give you this race to the bottom of just slashing pricing?
Nibble gets a personalized deal for every individual shopper. So it's all about finding what that shopper will see as good value and meeting them in the middle. So for one beauty client, I'm sorry to sound like a product pitch, but just to give you some idea of quantum, they were giving away 20% off voucher codes, maybe Love 20 at Valentine's Day or a payday offer frequently. And to sign up to their mailing list got you a 15% off. So we're talking about double-digit discounts normal. With Nibble, we increased average order value by 50% at the same time as we brought discounts down to under 10%. So we basically halved their discounting. And that's because we were focused on finding a set of products that the customer really wanted and giving them a nudge, a little discount that they felt really happy and really like they were being treated in a special way, but not this sort of blanket discounting. So as a result, most of our clients see a substantial improvement in margin. I would say that is indicative. Some people, maybe they discount at 10% normally and all the Nibble deals are at 7%. Our average discount last month was 7.65% across 300 retailers.
Yeah, I really like that because there are too many easy, lazy tactics of sign up to our newsletter and get 20% off. And I know why people want newsletter sign-ups, because typically email has a good conversion rate. But if you get people too early and try to push them into sign up in order to get money off when they're not ready or they haven't bought into the brand, you can actually push people away. So that acquisition piece in terms of knowing when to start trying to promote to people is really, really important. The next question I've got, which is around the testing bit. So I'd love to know how people are doing this to test and pilot and measure and learn. And I always say to people when they put a new tool in, if they can do a holdout test where they compare a set of customers not seeing it and a set of customers who do see it and looking at the differences. Can you share some examples how retailers are approaching this? You know, what kind of like proof of concept or piloting are they doing to validate it and what they've seen in the data?
Sure. So we've seen different tests with different retailers. So one of our retailers allowed us to do a proper A/B test with and without Nibble. And so with Nibble was 53% better conversion than without Nibble. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? But of course, without Nibble was no deal, and with Nibble was a marginal discount. So you would expect the conversion to be better. So others of our retailers have tried it against voucher codes or against what they did this time last year. So, for example, one of our retailers sells fishing equipment, and they saw an 11% increase in conversion on a 3-month period. And then one of our other retailers did an A/B test using no Nibble and then Nibble pushing you to double your average order value, which is a little bit fairer than no Nibble and Nibble, right? So no Nibble, no discount, or Nibble with a bit of a discount, but only if you put 3 items in your basket. And in that situation, we increased conversion by 4% and we increased average order value by 50%. But we did have to give a discount to get away, but it was a single digit discount. So it's different tests for different people. We keep people saying, can you A/B test? And it's like, yes, of course we can. but what would you like to test against? A standard voucher code, what you did last week? Because we're offering a deal, you have to be a bit careful that we don't do smoke and mirrors on you.
Yeah, I really like that because I have definitely been privy to conversations where people have claimed uplifts that are completely false, and it's like merchandising. Well,
Yes, and
when we
also
do,
it depends how much discount you're giving away, right? Like if you're going to give away a massive discount, if the conversion doesn't go through the roof, you'd be very disappointed, right?
yeah, exactly. And I guess the one thing that's really beneficial is the fact that you can control it. The retailer can control it through their A/B testing to determine who gets to see this. And I really like that idea of testing from an acquisition point of view of new customers to see maybe you test them against people who are shown they sign up and get 20% off versus those who don't get shown that but get given a negotiation and see what impact that has because that enables you to then do, you're right, to do a really good comparison. Interesting.
We've
And I'd
only
say,
we have had one. Sorry, we've had one customer test us on existing cohort versus new cohort. And the only stat I can really draw out from that is the behavior was quite similar, but the discount required was slightly different. As in all situations, the Nibble discount was about 20% less than the standard discount it would have required to get these on board in previous campaigns. But it was interestingly, it was like 18% less for the new customers, i.e., they still needed a discount, but it was 27% less for existing customers, i.e., they needed a discount, but a much smaller discount.
yeah, yeah, interesting, and therefore demonstrating that just ubiquitous across the board discounts are a dangerous way of nudging people to their next purchase. The bit one of the
Yes.
things I really enjoyed about your talk was uh, because you've got a lot of knowledge and experience about the user behavior, the experience around the psychology of negotiation. I'd love you. Can you summarize for the people listening who might not have knowledge in this area? What's some of that learning that's been used to hone how the AI works and delivers results? What are some of those principles that are built into it?
If there's one principle that you should take away for your real world negotiations, don't worry if you're not interested in AI negotiation. This one's for real negotiations. It's the principle of anchoring. And anchoring is the principle of making sure that the conversation is anchored around a place you want to trade. And you usually do that by going first. So if you're at 100 and I'm at 80, I go first at 65. And so I anchor the conversation where I want to get to, knowing that I might have to trade back up from 65, but
Yeah,
not. But I don't start at 80, and I definitely don't start at 90. And I don't let you start at 90 either. And so Nibble does this itself but in most scenarios, it goes first, right? So it actually says, I'm so glad to see you here today. I love doing deals for loyal customers like you. If I could drop the price to 80, how would that work for you? And what's really interesting is particularly after the customer has done a bundle, maybe put 3 items in their class in its basket, 25% of people say, yes, that's fine. And they don't even push back on the haggle. They just say, yes, first deal. Yeah, that sounds great.
and so from a retailer setting this up, so how do you, as the team at Nibble, help the retailers understand how they should anchor this, or is the AI doing it automatically based on a selling price, a product cost? I mean, how does that piece work? How automated is it versus how much do you need the business to say, actually, our anchoring target is 10% off?
Yeah. So mostly the business wants to do that. We haven't met anybody yet who goes straight in at, you tell me, doesn't matter, like get me the best.
Mm.
So mostly the business sets an anchor and they set a minimum, and they normally set a minimum that equates to other deals that they would normally do for this customer. Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm willing to give up to 25% off because my new customer sign up is 20%, something like that. And so the anchoring is done by the retailer, and then we work within those parameters. But after we get started, if we say, actually, you don't need to give away that much margin, Nibble will be ambitious. Do you see what I mean? And it will try and create the best margin possible. So we had one retailer who had some dead stock that was basically costing them warehouse fees, and it was already loss making. So they said, go on, see if you can clear the dead stock at 50% off. And we cleared that stock at 27% off. So making a full 23% more margin than that retailer would have made if they'd just taken a headline cut. And so they give us the minimum, and then we see how well we can outperform.
I really like that thinking as well. The fact that you can go granular and change the anchoring based on, I guess, the customer type or the product category. I'm assuming that from the way that you work, as long as the data's surfaced to you, you build the logic in your side then, do you, to determine how far the engine will go?
Yes, yes. And the other advantage is normally when you're doing discounting, you take maybe a category and say, I'm willing to discount that category by 10%. But what you find is when a customer is negotiating, they don't think about percentages, they think about dollars or pounds. And so we saw it, let's say you've got a bottle of gin and it's worth, let's say, 34.99. And you say, oh, I'm willing to take X percent, and X percent takes you down to, my maths doesn't work, £27.50 or something like that. What we find is the minute the number starts with a 2, the customer feels like they got a great deal on that bottle of gin. It was worth 30 something, and now it's worth 20 something.
Yeah.
They're fine. And so 28, 70, 29, 50, all of that is good news from the customer's point of view. So they're not pushing to get that last little percentage. And so you just scrape that into your margin.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a really good ebook by a guy called Nick Calendar on the psychology of pricing, and it has like the principles around. And one of them is that I think it's the terminology he uses, charm pricing. If the left digit changes, it has a far bigger impact than if other digits do. So you can actually give away less by just changing. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting psychology around pricing out there. But let's talk about another question I know people will want me to ask is about brand control, because in many businesses, brand control in terms of tonality, language that's used, how you engage with customers is critical. And I know that you've given a few examples in previous talks and on the website about how the AI can be trained to learn how to speak like the brand and how to reinforce USPs like, our products are all organic or all fully recycled, etc. Can you talk people through what are the settings, how much brand control is there, how do you help people get that set up?
So unfortunately, it's devastatingly quick. I'd love to say that I was training the AI and it was very complicated, but frustratingly, it's a bit too easy for that. So basically what we do is we modify the tone of language of the bot. So we have a sort of formal tone or a less formal tone. So you choose which fits your brand the best. And then we inject what we call brand value statements. And they will be things like, don't forget, all of our t-shirts are made with organic cotton, or don't forget, fair trade coffee means we pay our farmers a fair wage. Is that the best you can do? And this has the effect of bringing the customer back to a brand values based discussion and not a price discussion. And we've seen it. So coffee is a great example. We saw someone negotiate for 50% off their coffee replenishment. And when we reminded them what fair trade really means and how it means paying fair wages, and it's hard to make your coffee such a low price if you're going to be fair trade, they said, fair cop, what about 10% off? And immediately moved from this very deep discount to, yeah, I just wanted a nudge, but if you give me a treat, I'll give you the purchase today. And that's very much where we're trying to get people to. They've come to your website because they love your brand. Like they're sitting there reading your content, looking at your imagery, and they probably do already love those brand values. So it's just a chance to remind them in the moment so that the conversation's not all about deals and discounts.
Yeah, that's nice because I think phase one of chatbots was very, very functional statement based. So, what's your order number? There's no personality, and having seeing the tool like Nibble doing this and bringing in those USPs is really, really interesting. So I guess the next question is controlling the chat prompt. We've talked about testing to test and validate and see what impact it's having. What controls are there? And is there anything your side, I guess, or is it purely down to the retailer controlling when it displays on what pages and to whom?
Yes, it's very much with the retailer's choices. We've made it very flexible to what the retailer wants to do. the majority of the time it's used with two aims in mind. One might be on your clearance stock. It's used to nudge before you have to put it into deep discounts. So we've got one retailer using this very successfully. Can you imagine? They put all of their clearance stock on 10% off. Before they moved that to 30%, they just put Nibble on top with a 5 or a 10% increment to see if they could clear it before they went to 30. Then they went to 30, and then they put Nibble on top, and then they went to 50, and then they put Nibble on top. And as a result, you fill in the demand curve and you make a little bit more margin at every stage. So that's one place you can use it, where Nibble would be a button on the product detail page in the clearance section saying, do you want to negotiate the price of this item? Very like you might have on a second-hand item or on eBay or something. That's one way of doing it, where the rationale for that is the customer knows that you're trying to clear the stock. You've sort of been honest with them to say, we're trying to clear the stock. You could buy it now at a negotiated deal, or wait and see if it goes out of stock or if it gets on a deeper discount. And the customer knows that journey. That's one place. And then the other place is very, very targeted. And there we're seeing the targets that most people choose to use are either a long dwell time on the page. So someone's hung around on the page, but they haven't added to cart. Maybe they're reading all the content, but they haven't added to cart. Then Nibble can come in from the side and say, don't wait for Black Friday. That's too far away. Let's do a deal today, or something like that. Or it can be in an email campaign where the only person with the chance to negotiate on that item is the person who's received the email. So again, anybody browsing your website in a cursory way won't see Nibble. And then the last way, sorry to go on, but then the last way, just so you understand, is in a bundling scenario, what we could do is trigger it from inside the cart. So someone's added one item to the cart, and inside the cart it says, I'm so glad you like it. If you're prepared to add 2 more items, we could chat about a deal. And again, the nice thing about that is there's no discounting on the face of the page, but you're just trying to, frankly, increase your average order value and decrease your fulfillment cost per order, you know.
I really like that use case of going to a customer and it's unique to them and no one else viewing that PDP will get that prompt, because I guess that would fit really well in for some people in targeting specific audiences. Maybe it's like a value add service, and maybe it's part of a loyalty thing, like you move up to a loyalty scheme second level and you now get the option to get custom pricing. I like that. That's a good example.
Or the other people that it suits. Sorry, James. The other people it suits is B2B customers. Maybe you email your B2B customers because you know that they order in bulk. So we see quite a lot of that, actually.
Interesting. And my understanding is there are business rules that merchants can use within your platform to set certain controls. I've not seen that side of it, so I'd love to know what is there in the platform side that people can use.
We keep it quite simple, actually. So you choose where you want to discount, and it could be a product or a category or the whole store. And then you set a minimum price. And then you usually give us an objective. The objective is either maximize conversion or maximize margin. Maximize conversion is I've got lots of stock and I'll be pragmatic on discounts. And maximize margin is I've only got one left. See what the best deal you can get is. But generally speaking, it's just literally setting your bottom number and setting it by category. So there's not much you need to do. And then you choose when it's displayed, fire an email campaign or dwell time.
And so if you're doing it by category, how is Nibble knowing the product category to make sure it's applying the correct rules on the correct products?
So if you're on Shopify, for example, we're an app and we just read your category details from inside the app. And we also have a plugin for Magento. If you're on a bespoke platform, we have an API. So we link into your platform that way and then use your existing product catalog.
Excellent. Nice. Are most of the merchants currently you work with, are they on Shopify, or is it really across lots of different platforms?
It's pretty evenly balanced between Magento and Shopify for the platform merchants. And then we have a handful of larger API customers. We have quite a lot of tiny Shopifys, but that's a little bit different just because the Shopify platform allows people to self-serve.
Yeah, indeed. And I got another question on impact, actually, because I'm intrigued with the data side of it. Has anyone who's using the product, have they done any modelling on lifetime value of comparing people who use the negotiation versus those who don't, and whether that leads to people coming back more or purchasing more, or are people not yet there in their analysis?
Unfortunately, you've asked me that before, and they're not there in their analysis, and I'd love there to be, because anecdotally, we see very, very high degrees of engagement. And actually, the bot can be very empathetic. Things like somebody might say, I bought this chair before and I've just moved into a bigger house and I love it so much, I need two more. And Nibble will reply with a really lovely answer saying, I think that's great news. Congratulations on your new home. Maybe we could get you 7% off. And so that sort of empathy is what you would frankly start to expect from a customer service agent on live chat or on the telephone.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, the generative AI wave helps us do that much, much better, because we're all about sort of negotiating a great deal. But some of these scenarios that, say somebody says, oh, I'm an NHS worker, do you have a blue light discount? And the chatbot now can, with a little bit of help from generative AI, can respond something along the lines of, I love what you do for the society, blue heart emoji, and then start negotiating a deal. And so that level of empathy and engagement is really, frankly, it's just wonderful. It's just fun, and it's real. And so when we're old enough and wise enough and grey-haired enough, I hope to come back to you with robust customer
Yeah,
lifetime value stats to back up.
yeah. I'll be really interested when somebody's got to that level of data analysis, because I think it'd be very interesting in terms of customer satisfaction, um, because of the nature of it, because it's not just factual basis and not just single discount basis. It's about trying to adapt to the different customers. I would expect that it would have a positive impact on repeat purchasing. But yeah, interesting. Let's revisit that one in the future. But I mean, overall, I love the tool. I
Exactly.
think it's a great idea. I think it's well executed, and I think more people should be looking at it. The UI is really nice. It's non-intrusive, you say, and I love the tonality of it. My question is, where's it headed? Like, what are they? Is this just about? Are you just in like scaling new customers? Are you looking at rolling out new features? Are you looking at integrating it into more platforms to provide apps? What's the focus?
So we started as what would be called a distributed negotiation. So that's, I'm at 100, you're at 80, let's split the difference. That's a distributed negotiation. But the objective is to become a full complex negotiation, like you might do around, like when you get a new job, you want a high salary, don't you? But other things matter to you, like vacation days or whether it's hybrid working. And these don't go precisely to value, do they? They might have a value, but it's not actually, it's quite hard to categorize it against salary. And actually, what we'd like to do is move this much closer to that. So the new features that are already released help us do that, because the brand value statements are non-financial elements of that negotiation. We can recognize and offer a gift with purchase, and we can recognize and offer bundles. And so all of these are non-value, non-price. They take it away from that distributed negotiation to a more real, human, complex negotiation where there's multi-factors. But in the end, it's going to feel like a conversational card. Can you imagine, like, let's say, this is particularly appropriate for sort of luxury shoppers who maybe fill their basket with like 5 items that they really aspire to buy, but they only come back and buy once every 2 months. But can you imagine Nibble coming back saying, I see you've got 5 items in your basket, and I suspect they're things you've been longing for a while. If you were to buy 2 today, I'm sure we could do a deal with you. So it becomes a very, like a conversational cart.
Yeah, I like that vision of it, because discounting is just a reality, or promotions discounted, depending on whether you're a premium brand or a high street retailer. It just happens, and it's always going to happen, and people will always be looking for deals, whether that deal is price led or value led. So you're right, being able to do it in a way that actually engages people and aligns with how they want to be treated is going to be an interesting evolution. And finally, a key question. I know the information is on your website for people listening. How does the pricing model work? Is it based on usage? Is it flat fees? Can you talk people through that?
So it's based on usage. So anybody on Shopify can self-serve a demo, download it to their website, and start for free. On the other platforms, you need an API key from us, so we just need to contact us. Then it's a 2% commission on sales that are purchased as a result of Nibble, but only purchased, right? So it's 2% commission on the purchased value. And I would say most of our clients make better margins that more than pay for that.
Excellent. And if anybody wants to probe further, find out more, or talk to you about how they would use the tool on their site, how do they reach out?
I'm probably far too active on LinkedIn. So if anyone wants to find me on LinkedIn, Rosie Bailey at Nibble on LinkedIn, I'm sure you'll find me. Or our website is nibbletechnology.com.
Excellent. Look, thanks, Rosie, for taking the time to join us. I hope you continue to have great success at Nibble. I'm watching it with keen eyes. I'm hoping that I get a client project where they agree to test it as well soon. And look, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've done. Keep your ear open for our next episode. We drop one every week. And don't forget before you go to give us that rating on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever else you are listening and watching. Thanks, everybody. Until next week.
Thank you.